drop it like it's Dr. Oz's political career. Power, power, power hour. All right, Jake Euchre, Jessica Burbank, Alonzo Bowden. Can you take it to the bank? Take it to the Burbank. Okay. I'm gonna start out so random, but first, Alonzo, stupid, don't get tired.
What's up?
That's your special. Where is it?
It is on it's on YouTube, and you can find it through my YouTube channel or through Helium Comedy's YouTube channel. We recorded it back in March. There's been a lot of stupid since then. Stupid, don't get tired. It's a constant job, Cenk, but I'm trying to stay ahead of them. So.
All right. Okay. Good. And all right. Speaking of random, I'm just gonna say something for the record. Officially, it's not one of our stories today, and then we'll move on because we got a lot of news. Okay. I'm calling the Pennsylvania Senate race. Dr. Oz is going to lose. John Fetterman is going to win. It's my earliest call ever. I called the 2012 presidential election 6 weeks ahead of time. This one I'm calling more than 2 months ahead of time. Dr. Oz has fallen and he does not have the ability to get up. Coup d'etat was his amusing nail in the coffin. It's over. Fetterman's going to the Senate, barring some sort of medical awful situation. Outside of some sort of meteor hitting Fetterman directly or the planet in general, Fetterman will win, Oz will lose. So there. How's that for a random beginning to the show?
Cenk has seen enough. The race has been called.
Yes, he has no ability to get back. I said that when they were tied.
I don't know, the coup d'etat voters, you don't want to discount them. It's particularly the ones that come in from out of state on weekends. You know, that's a powerful force there, Cenk. You might be counting them out too soon.
All right, well, let's see. Let's see if coup d'etat carries the day. Okay, so that was my randomness for the day. Jessica's got the real news.
Yeah, the coup d'etat caucus, one could say. All right, Let's get into it. Let's watch this.
Tell us what this means that Giuliani has now been named as a target of this investigation. What is he now facing?
He may be facing a midnight train.
Teaser for a later story. We're gonna watch something else now, but we will get back to that. Let's watch this. Don't have that, so we're gonna go on without it. Maybe we'll show that video to you later on. But let's start with some really big wins in labor in the United States. So we know that Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, has been union busting like crazy, but yesterday he faced a major setback. So a federal judge ordered that Starbucks must immediately reinstate the Memphis 7, the organizers who were fired in the Tennessee store. So Starbucks fired those workers back in February, and here was their excuse. Starbucks said that the firing was because the 7 workers violated security policies by staying in the store after hours, allowing a TV crew behind the counter and in the back of the house, and in the case of one worker, opening the safe without permission. But we know from the evidence that we've seen that this was really a case of retaliation against these workers who were organizing the union. Here's what one worker said after she was fired. I was fired by Starbucks today for policies that I've never heard of before and that I've never been written up for before. So the National Labor Relations Board filed a legal motion challenging this firing. And Cheryl Lippman, the district judge in Memphis, said the National Labor Relations Board had provided enough evidence that the dismissals earlier in the year were motivated by anti-union animus. Lippman also ordered Starbucks to no longer engage in the type of activities that gave rise to the case. Those activities include discharging, disciplining, or discriminating against employees because of their union support and activities. One of the main union organizers gave a comment on this, and she said, "We're beyond thankful the federal court ruled in our favor, and this just goes to show that Starbucks will do everything in their power to silence us. Memphis is a union town. We've remained the only store to have organized in Memphis for fear of workers being fired like we were." So for them, it's in a large part about job security. But we have reporting from the Washington Post of one of the main organizers with Starbucks Workers United saying Howard Schultz thought he could terrify an entire nation of baristas by firing the Memphis Organizing Committee. Thankfully, a federal judge has found that Schultz is not above the law. And right now, Starbucks, as the kids would say, is big mad about the ruling. Reggie Borges, a Starbucks spokesperson, said the company would appeal the ruling and request a stay of the order, which could result a pause of the reinstatement of these employees until the review is finished. So they're gonna keep fighting this. They've lost big and they're gonna keep fighting this. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so big day for labor. I love this. So a nuance is necessary, but it's also very good. We're gonna get to that in a second. But first, we have to note that anything called the Memphis 7 is by definition cool. So that's where Starbucks lost immediately, okay? But that actually does relate to the substance as well. But also, let's note that Jessica just said, as the kids say. Okay, as if she's 85. Okay, anyways, now to the substance. Look, there are legitimate cases of people getting fired that don't have anything to do with the union in the middle of a union drive. It happens all the time. That's why you have a National Labor Relations Board. Now, when it goes to them, it's not easy for the union to win. It's not easy for the workers to win. And if you show legitimate reason, and oftentimes there are legitimate reasons, then you win, the employer wins, right? So the fact that Starbucks lost is a huge deal. Second of all, a hint as to why it might have been union organizing that got them fired in the first place is that there were 7 of them. All 7 miraculously violated random codes at Starbucks at the same time. The same 7 who were organizing and Starbucks knew they were organizing. Well, that is a hell of a coincidence, and that is why you lose. And now having to rehire them, and the message this sends, more importantly, to the rest of the workers, don't be afraid. You can organize, you're allowed to do that here in America, you're allowed to do that at Starbucks. That's a giant message and a very positive one today.
To me, it's really funny watching this pendulum swing. Now you talk about, as the kids can say, as you can see from the gray here, I'm not one of the kids, I've been around. And I was in manufacturing in the 80s when unions were under attack, when unions were destroyed and they were made evil and greedy through the 80s, through the 90s and early 2000s. And the pendulum is swinging back. Like these companies like Starbucks, like Howard Schultz is like, hey, you don't need a union, we'll pay you well, we pay for you to go to school, all this and all that. But now workers are finding out, all the benefits that you used to get, healthcare and pay and everything, that was all negotiated by unions. Unions are not a bad thing. And I have to be honest, it is comical for Memphis to call itself a union town, okay? There's nothing in the South that's a union town. The South is not a union place. But if this is happening, that's a great thing. I think the pendulum should be swinging. Workers, young people are finding out why unions were first organized back 100 years ago, literally in the early 1900s when you had labor barons and stuff. And now we look at these multi-billionaire CEOs and it's like, whoa, we're back to the robber baron era where the CEO owns, billions of dollars, has billions of dollars, and the worker bee is lucky to get $15 an hour and have 3 roommates. So good for them. I hope the pendulum swings farther and that unions come back. And all this talk about labor shortages and everything else, no, it's pay shortage, it's benefit shortage, it's people not willing to give up their time and work for nothing. So good for them for organizing. And wow, I hope the courts do continue to back them up.
Absolutely. I want to see the Memphis 7 returning back to work, just all together. They need a walkout song coming into the shop at Starbucks. But I'm glad what you brought up, Alonzo, about the new momentum in the labor movement. We have that video. Let's watch this.
I'm gonna tell y'all like this. I heard a rumor. Y'all want to be the new Amazon of Pittsburgh. Well, guess what? We set up shop there. And just like today, we gonna set up shop here every damn time. We ain't going nowhere. UPMC, they owe y'all some money. Amazon owe us a bag too. So, the time that we're in right now in this country, it's important that we continue this fight. It's important that we come together as people and we bring it right to their doorsteps. You gotta keep fighting. Because when we fight back, we win. When we fight back, we win. When we fight back, we win. Every damn time.
So UPMC is an acronym for the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, and it's the biggest employer and landowner in the region. It claims to be a nonprofit, but they're raking in billions and not paying any money in taxes. And people in the communities in Pittsburgh are quite upset because they need that revenue for infrastructure, for schools, for healthcare and investment in those communities. But as Alonzo just pointed out, there's a huge problem with high CEO pay and low pay for workers. Jeffrey A. Romoff, the president and CEO, makes $8.5 million annually. 34 of their top paid employees are earning over $1 million, while they're not paying their workers fair wages and they're not paying taxes. And so the labor movement has a lot of momentum, and organizing and leadership like that is exactly why.
So that was Chris Smalls in Pittsburgh today, where they're having Netroots, and they all went together to do an action in front of UPMC. But the main point of that story is that the fire is spreading. So now there's more and more union efforts. And look, I gotta say that in the beginning I was a little skeptical because some of the unions were targeting the most progressive places because they thought it was low-hanging fruit, and it felt a little unfair. But I'm like, wait, you're leaving the giant multi-trillion-dollar companies and targeting some folks that are barely surviving, right? But I have to say, no, to be fair, they spread and spread and spread and got to larger and larger companies. So they were building momentum. So looking back on it, you say, maybe that was a good strategy to start small and get bigger and bigger. Now, we're talking about Amazon, we're talking about Starbucks, and now organizing is spread all over the country, and that's a great phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean, I get why they started small, because if you started big, if you challenged Amazon and a big healthcare company, they own Congress people, right? They straight up own people in Congress. So that they own people who appoint judges. They own politicians who appoint judges. It makes it a much harder fight. So good for them for building momentum with the smaller companies and the smaller wins, because these big corporations, as you say, multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporations, are going to be a very difficult fight. And one of the things that they might try to do is, I don't know, outsource more labor, but they definitely have the money to get politicians on their side. I mean, unfortunately, America's politicians are for sale, right? We've all heard the joke that they should wear NASCAR suits so we know who owns them and who they're sponsored by, but that's the truth. So now that they're taking on the big boys, the fight becomes much more expensive and much tougher. So getting the people on your side with the small wins and getting the community on your side when, like you say, you have a big corporation here, not paying taxes, using all the infrastructure, but not paying taxes to the community. That's how you get the people on your side. Good for them, good strategy.
Absolutely, and we have yet another big labor win to report on. So nurses in a Maine medical center have defeated a right-wing push to decertify their union that they have already won. So reporting from Common Dreams, a tally released late Thursday showed that Maine med nurses voted 1,108 to 387 in support of retaining the Maine State Nurses Union Association, National Nurses United, as their collective bargaining representative, a nearly 75% vote in favor of the union. The vote, held in person on August 17th and 18th, favored the union even more heavily than the initial 1,001 to 750 vote in 2021. The decertification push was openly backed by the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation, which is an anti-union organization that said it provided free legal assistance to Brooks and other petition supporters. We have a quote from Jonica Frank, who's a registered nurse and a member of the union's bargaining team, who said, "We have already negotiated historic improvements in pay, in working conditions, and on patient safety issues. A no vote in this election would have meant that all of these things could be taken away from us. Once again, in this election, we have spoken and we are not going back." So not only are we in a time where there's massive momentum in the labor movement? There's a lot of union busting going on as well. And there's a lot of busting of unions that already exist, not people trying to form a union, but trying to decertify people who have already voted to unionize.
Yeah, so look, it's a great day for labor, it really is. And I want to give credit to a couple of different people here. And Anthony McClendon, who is one of our members on YouTube, made a great point, which allows me to transition to what I wanted to say. He said, Cenk, when you talk about the savvy, guts, and determination of the younger generation, these union stories prove that, and the generation after them. I totally agree, and that's exactly what I wanted to say, Anthony. Because a lot of this, especially at Starbucks, was not started by some giant union that already existed. It was started by young people who had had enough. And they said, no, we're gonna organize. If a union wants to come, great, wonderful. They went searching for a union, and that happened at Amazon at some places too. It's the younger generation saying, I'm just not gonna take your crap anymore. Like the mythology that corporate media puts in, that you cannot, that management is always right, you can't, status quo must always be maintained, corporate rule is awesome. And now people are saying, no, the younger generation is saying, it's not awesome, it's not helping us at all, and corporate media yelling at us is completely unpersuasive. So I love that the younger generation is now using their power. That's the only way we're ever gonna get the change. And then Shy Cold Train 42 is a member on our site. And by the way, guys, you can, for YouTube, just hit the join button below. For our site, tyt.com/join. And you can tell we do the show with you guys, and you guys are so smart, great points. And Shy Cold Train 42 wrote in, employers are now thinking about unionizing Walmart, a corporation that pays their employees so poorly that Walmart is being subsidized by the government. It's time to bring the fight to Walmart. That is exactly right, there we go. And if, by the way, anybody tells you don't do it, if you really need a union at your place, and at these giant companies you almost all do, right? Don't let your manager talk you out of it, don't let your the media talk you out of it. Don't let anyone, the people who say they have experience and try to intimidate you, etc., talk you out of it. Go forward. These giant companies badly need labor to coalesce. Otherwise, they're going to misuse and abuse their workers to no end.
Cenk, thank you for saying that. You know what you said about them trying to talk you out of it. It reminds me of voting, right? If it wasn't so important, they wouldn't try so hard to stop you. If the union wasn't so important to help you, they wouldn't be fighting so hard for you to not have a union. You obviously need, and especially a company like Walmart, as your subscriber said, Walmart is subsidized by the federal government. There are Walmart employees who collect food stamps, and there are multi-billionaires who run the company. And it's absolutely insane that that's going on. You know, to the nurses in Maine, and there are certain professions that it's mind-boggling that they're under attack. Who attacks nurses, right? I mean, if there's anything we should have learned in the past 2 years is how valuable, how brave, how frontline are they? Like, oh, by the way, thanks for risking your life through the pandemic. We'd like to not pay you. You know, it's mind-blowing. It's the same thing with teachers and trying to do away with teaching unions and stuff like that. I don't know, man. Kudos to the young people, what you just said, to listen, get angrier, fight harder, okay? Don't work. If do what it takes to unionize and get your respect and get your money and get your health care and get your benefits, because these corporations don't care about you. The guy at the top who's making, what was that salary you gave, $8 million a year? And that's low in the CEO world. He's scraping the bottom in the CEO world at 8 million. There's CEOs that are tipping 8 million to their staff or whatever. The labor force deserves to get paid. Young people deserve that opportunity to one day own a home. I mean, I joke about it. I have a joke. This one will get me killed. It's like, oh yeah, you're one of those letter generations that will never own a home, right? It's harsh, but it's true. Change it, make it untrue, fight for yours.
100%. I'll say one last thing. Our side shouldn't be afraid of a vote either. So they did a decertification vote. So what? By the way, 500 nurses did ask for one, right? And it made it seem like they were the majority. They had the vote. Turns out, nope, they were the minority. The union won the vote easily with 75% of the vote. That means the workers won it. Fantastic, now we know. And by the way, since the number went way up, since the original time that they certified the union, that shows you they were actually very happy with the union. That's why they got a bigger percentage of the vote the second time around. Nothing wrong with votes, and it's great that the nurses union won that one easily.
I love that we're talking about young people, and I love that Alonzo is saying we need to get angrier. Corporations are big mad. We also need to be big mad. There's nothing we can be afraid of. There's nothing to be afraid of because these corporations are nothing without their workers. All of the power is in the hands of the workers, and while they may threaten you and say if you form a union, you may lose your job, you may get worse benefits, it's much better to relate to us directly. It's all not true. They're telling you all of that stuff because they are scared. And it's true that young people are fed up with the country that they're inheriting. I mean, I got a graduate degree in public policy, and the first thing I did after that was go right back to organizing because all I learned is the people who are supposed to have answers in this country absolutely do not. And I think one benefit of this younger generation is we have tools at our disposal like TikTok, like social media, where information can spread incredibly fast. And this week, I'm a part of 70 influencers who are saying, we're not going to take any money with Amazon. We are not going to work with Amazon. And this will hopefully inspire other TikTokers to make that same pledge and say to Amazon directly, we are not going to work with you. We are not going to push your online revenue up unless you meet the demands of the workers and recognize the union. And so because young people are able to communicate at a much faster rate than they were in previous generations, I think that's a big reason this is being successful. The other thing, the last thing that I'll say about this is that the Amazon labor union is special in its own way because it is worker-led. This was not an outside shop like a big international union like the SEIU or AFL-CIO. They do great work. But it's really important that this organizing came from workers who were upset with their working conditions and organized a walkout. And that momentum led to a union. So it's really huge that, yes, this is coming from young people, people who are fed up, and it's worker-led.
Absolutely. So love it. That's a lot of good news to start the show with. You're welcome. Okay, when we come back, we will make fun of Republicans, of course, but it is on serious issues. They've got more witch hunts. We'll fight back when we return. All right, back on TYT. We're kind of hiring like crazy. Thank you guys. It's because of the members. So Neil Turner's got a new show coming up in October on Bossed. You guys are gonna love that. Make sure you're checking that out. TYT.com/unbossedTYT. It's important to subscribe there so we can get enough momentum when she does start in October. We really appreciate you guys getting involved. And you saw we hired Washington correspondent Candace Cole and national correspondent Matt Sheffield. So already Candace broke a story we covered on the show yesterday. Go to tyt.com/, well, just go to tyt.com and then you'll start to see the stories, of course, under investigates. Okay, so, and by the way, I hope you guys are checking out Rebel Headquarters, where Jessica Burbank is killing it daily. Like, just different things die every day, and you're like, what happened? Burbank happened. That's what happened, okay? These are just metaphors, not literal. Alonzo Bowden, also a little bit of, Murder Incorporated, not a big deal. Once again, a metaphor. also on Rebel headquarters. Okay, so definitely check that out. They're doing great videos. Ben Gleib's in the second hour. He's also on Rebel headquarters, also killing it. You guys are all doing amazing. Okay, so let's go to our members.
Thank you, Cenk, for mentioning my name with Murder Inc. I can't wait till the cops get to the door and I have to explain that he was kidding. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
It was a metaphor, not actual. Oh, God damn it, Cenk. Okay.
Just tell them it's just something the kids are saying. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, tell them it's something the kids are saying. I love that. Okay, all right, here we go. Mickey C, the silver haired dragon said, love Alonzo, wise, intelligent, funny as hell. That's awesome. John Bogino writes in, hi TYT, love that you guys have been covering labor stories more frequently, great power panel. Tall glass of shut up juice says, the more I'm seeing Jessica host, the more I'm loving her as an addition to the TYT team. I told you, take it to the Burbank, okay? Don't shoot on the goalkeeper says, right to work equals right to be exploited. That's exactly right. Right to work is a made up term by the Republicans. It's meant to be used against workers, so don't get fooled by that. Peaky Dragon says, shouldn't nonprofits that benefit from zero income tax have a limit on executive pay? They're getting a huge break from the government. Why not balance that with reasonable limits? Good luck with that, because the people that run them are in the elites, and the elites that are in the government totally empathize with them, let alone contributions, etc. Marijuana's #3 fan says, I'm gonna say it, Chris Smalls for Turk of the Year. Interesting. We'll think about it, all right? We'll be right back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk, Alonzo, Jessica, and Laura Glidden. Laura, thank you for joining. We appreciate it. She hit the join button below the video on YouTube. That's how you make dreams come true. Dreams of progressive change. That's what we're working on. You think we're not gonna get it? We are gonna get it. And we're gonna get it with our members, tyt.com/join for everybody else. Also, Bet Rodriguez, thank you so much for the donation on Super Chat. We appreciate it. Jessica.
All right, before the break, Cenk promised you would be making fun of Republicans. Promises made, promises kept. Watch this.
Because I'm one of the Americans that are sick and tired of our government allowing the abuse of the American people. But when it comes to gender affirming care, which is really child abuse, this is actually an assault and it's child abuse.
Okay. All right, Marjorie Taylor Greene. We're gonna show more of that video in just a second here, but what she's saying is that a child telling their parents, I believe this gender is right for me, and them believing them is child abuse. Weird argument to make. Is it a crime? Marjorie Taylor Greene believes so, and she has plans to make it so. Let's watch this.
I'm introducing a bill called Protect Children's Innocence Act, and it would create a law that would cause it to be a Class C felony for any person involved in so-called gender affirming care. That means genital mutilation surgery, that means hormones, that means puberty blockers, anything involving any youth.
She meant what she said on Tucker Carlson because today she did introduce a bill that would make giving gender affirming care a Class C felony. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so they conflate issues all the time. And it's in an effort to attack trans people and LGBTQ people in general. So as we're gonna show you in a related story in a minute, in Utah, they passed a bill and there's only one trans girl in the whole state. And it was about trans girls in high school sports. Is that a pressing issue in Utah? Of course not. It's a totally irrelevant issue in Utah. So why are the Republicans trying to do national legislation that is affecting almost literally no one? Because they want to send out a message. The message is, we hate these people. They're the others. You should be afraid of them. And don't worry, we're going to protect you from them. And then they couch it under the guise of, I'm just trying to help them. I'm trying to look out for the trans kids because they're not trans. How do you know? You don't even know them. I know them better than their parents. Wait a minute. The Republicans ran a campaign in Virginia saying, the Democrats want to teach science and history. It's a war on parents. Well, you're saying the parents shouldn't get to decide what their kids are gonna do, you're gonna have a war on parents and say, no, I'm taking control of your kid's life and I'm not gonna let you make those decisions. And of course, what I started with, which is conflating things. They make it seem like everyone is getting reassignment surgery, okay? No, most of the stuff is way more benign and not permanent at all. But they put them all in the same bucket. And they make it seem like anything that says, hey, it's okay to be you, is gender reassignment surgery, they're chopping this, etc. They're mutilating the kids. They said mutilating in that segment, 3, 4, 5 times? It's just absolutely gross. It's not an effort to protect those kids, it's an effort to target those kids.
Okay, let me start with, as we said, the name of my special, Cenk, stupid don't get tired. That could be Marjorie Taylor Greene's motto. That could be every day when she goes to work, I'm still here, stupid don't get tired. I honestly didn't know she was allowed to introduce legislation. I thought they had just taken that away from her because she's so ridiculous. And to me, the funniest thing in that clip is looking at Tucker Carlson maintain his serious face, because you know that's the only thought he's having. Maintain that face, maintain that face. It's like you said, the hypocrisy is beyond belief. We're gonna stop parents from doing what they want to do with their children? Really? Because in Florida, you want the parents to burn books. You want conservative parents to have the ability to stop any child from learning. So those parents, that's okay. But if a parent wants to love their child as their child is and support their child as their child comes to them with this, and again, like you said, Cenk, they consider these people other, but there's also, they can't imagine, but we can, how difficult that is for a child to talk to their parents about. The difficulty in feelings with, I mean, it's hard enough being a teenager, a child, going through puberty, everything else that you're dealing with. Right now you're dealing with this, your personal gender decisions and coming out and looking for support for your parent. And you think Congress needs to be involved? And not just Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who every day is fighting to be the dumbest person in Congress. And that's a tough fight because Lorraine Boebert's there and Herschel Walker's on his way to the Senate. So she's got a lot of work to do. It is, I will always make jokes about it because it should be comical, and unfortunately, it is real.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get some more details out about this. Cenk mentioned the Utah story, and I think this is something that's closer to child abuse. It's definitely treating children badly. The rights assault on transgender kids and the transgender community in general has some big consequences. So parents at one school in Utah filed a complaint and asked the school to investigate whether a girl who had beaten their daughters by a wide margin in competition was transgender. A representative from the state's High School Athletics Association told legislators on Wednesday. People were saying things like, this female athlete doesn't look feminine enough. Just because she is good at sports and she is beating their kids, they started questioning her sex. And let's remember that 42 states have passed either anti-trans or anti-abortion laws, and more than half of the states have considered anti-trans legislation. And Utah, as Cenk mentioned earlier, did try and pass that bill, and it was vetoed by the governor. Spencer Cox, who is a Republican governor there, said rarely has so much fear and anger been directed at so few. And he makes a really good point with this, because among US adults, 0.5% identify as transgender. Among youth ages 13 to 17 in the United States, 1.4% identify as transgender. So they're really making a much larger deal about this than it needs to be. And it's really weird, and they're distracting us with these conversations and the culture war when we could be having substantive conversations about how to make things better in this country. But they would rather talk about this, and it really is about freedom. This is something that I think should be a conversation within a home and within a family.
So what they did was they turned her great day into a nightmare. So she wins by a wide margin, she's thrilled. But what she doesn't know is there's a witch hunt out to get her. So the other parents start whispering because they know the right wing has passed this law. And they're like, oh, okay. They're judging her looks. She's going to high school. And they're like, oh, she did a great job of winning. I think she looks like a boy. Yeah, don't you think? She looks like a man. I bet she's a man. Let's go target her. And then they make the administration literally investigate her. So they go back and they go to junior high school records, elementary school records, and try to make sure. Thank God they did do a genitalia check. But that's next. These guys they love big government, and they're almost all perverts. So they're always looking into our sex lives. What are they doing? What are they up to? What's their gender identity? What kind of sex are they having? Oh, I want to know. Is it the kids? Let's check the kids. In another state, we covered it, passed a law saying, yeah, we can check their genitals. They're disgusting. So they try to ruin that poor girl's life. Well, she did something amazing. She won by a lot. And the bitter right-wing parents are like, I can't believe she beat our daughter. Let's accuse her of being a different gender. And let's try to ruin her life. Welcome to the right wing. It's not family values at all. They hate everyone that isn't exactly like them. And it's just a release for them. It's emotional release. Like, because their lives aren't going well. So what are they picking on? They're picking on little kids. They're disgusting.
I hope the girl who won gets 2 phone calls. One from Venus Williams and one from Serena Williams saying, congratulations, we've been there too. Because they did this to the Williams sisters when they came in and started whooping everybody's ass in tennis. They were like, they can't be girls. They're too strong, they're this or that. The girl who won by a wide margin, whatever that means, whatever sport this is, was more talented and trained harder and beat your kids. And I hope that girl has the support somewhere saying, you are great, you destroyed them. And you know what, next time, beat them by even more. Let them know, how dare they challenge your gender because you're better than them. These little girls, you wanna know how Karens are raised? This is how Karens are raised. This is how you create Karens. Oh, you lost? Well, it must be someone else's fault. It couldn't be that somebody worked harder than you. It couldn't be that someone's better than you. No, we have to report them to the government and we have to get them investigated. There has to be something wrong here. You know what? You lost, okay? That little girl blew you away in your own sport. I cannot support her enough. I love this. And I truly hope that the Williams sisters, that other great athletes send their support to this girl and say, you keep doing what you're doing. And what's funny, Cenk, when you talk about the right wing, what is their always story? Work hard, survive on merit, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Guess what? The girl that destroyed your daughter worked harder than your daughter and is better than your daughter. So please shut up.
Yeah, and the reason we don't have as many details about this young girl and what she was competing in is because the Athletic Association there in Utah is doing the best to protect her identity. Let's hope for her sake it stays that way. But obviously what Marjorie Taylor Greene was arguing for has intense consequences, and she wants every Republican to be in lockstep with her with this legislation and fighting against the transgender community. Let's watch this.
We're not even a party worth deserving of the American people's votes if we cannot protect children from this horrific child abuse and create this to be a felony, because this practice has to end. It's the kind of things nightmares are made of, and these are monsters under kids' beds.
Monsters under kids' beds. The doctors and the therapists and the family members that are giving gender-affirming care to kids, she is now calling monsters under their beds, which I think goes to show if you let Marjorie Greene talk for a little bit too long, it easily gets derailed.
Yeah, last thing on that, she says, no, the parents don't know, the doctor doesn't know, most importantly, the kid doesn't know, none of them knows, but Marjorie Taylor Greene knows. And instead of giving them affirming care, she says, their parents basically should reject them and say, no, we don't believe you. We think our little girl or our little boy is a liar, and I'm not gonna give you a damn thing, and you should hate yourself. And she says that there are monsters under their beds. Well, that part is true. It's just that you were just looking at it. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson are those monsters. All right, we gotta take a break here. When we come back, Tucker Carlson's not done being a monster. He's now going to attack minorities. Of course! We'll do that when we return. Let's go to YouTube Super Chat. The Blah writes in, Dr. Oz can't get it up. Ha ha ha, referring to my first prediction. Hello, somebody writes in, thank you very much for reporting on labor. Please consider reporting on the coal miner strike in Bessemer, Alabama. Good to see Alonzo Bowden on TYT. Absolutely, we're trying to report on as many of those as we possibly can. And thanks for bringing that to our attention again. Progressive Stuck in Idaho writes in, Cenk, thank you for bringing on strong, intelligent women. Jessica and Anna are truly inspirational for young women today. Keep up the great work. Love you. Well, that is wonderful. Thank you. We appreciate it. And I think you're right. I think they're amazing. I've been trying to come up with I heard you guys are doing like amalgamation names.
Yes.
You know, like there was what would you
Annika and Salt and Pepper.
Oh, Annika for Jessica and Anna. I was thinking about ours, and there's not a lot of good ones. The Jank Bank. No. No.
Hey, Cenk, how about you just let this one go?
I got one. Burger.
How about you just
The Burger Hour. Burger.
So good.
Yeah. Let the young people have this one, Cenk.
But wait a minute. If we need to add you, Alonzo, and if you're king, then it's Burger King.
Once again, we're gonna let the young people have this one.
Bart is always ready.
All right, I tried. Okay, let the professionals do this, Cenk, okay? All right. Somebody with a lot of letters and numbers in their names wrote in saying we have weekends because of unions. That is true, and thank you for using Super Chat. Matthew Valente said, oh my God, it's 2022 and people are still defending Trump. When are they just gonna give up? Answer, unfortunately, never. Peter Hamby writes in with the haiku, wagered on Starbucks, a better coffee to drink, Too Strong Union Roast. Oh, there you go. TooStrongCoffee.com/TYT supports progressive causes and is the best coffee in the world. TooStrongCoffee.com/TYT. I always enjoy the plugs. Thank you guys. Chaplain Fred, aka Prayer Dragon, wrote in, hi Cenk, thank you for having Alonzo and Jessica on. Talk about a power panel. Alonzo, besides being funny, your videos are so educational and to the point. Jessica is so very professional. Love TYT. Thank you again, guys. We appreciate it. Apostate Alexei writes in, I was hired at Sam's Club many years ago. On my first day, they made me watch video after video of anti-union propaganda. It was also my last day there. Okay, so good for you to leave immediately. God bless, okay. Early Bird 42 says, so wait, are right-wingers going to start criminalizing circumcisions now? Good question. KCA also says something similar. So does Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill also cover genital mutilation, like religiously influenced circumcision? They had nothing to say about that. That's interesting. All right, back on TYT, and On Mouse just became a member on YouTube and gifted a membership. How you like that generosity? We like it a lot. Thank you, we appreciate it. Cenk, Jessica, and Alonzo with you guys. And I missed this comment, so I gotta throw it in real quick. Mary Duff 911 on Twitch writes in, Cenk needs to go on vacation all the time. His skin color is very sexy. Look, I'm not saying it. I'm just hearing the chitter chatter and reporting the news. That's all, that's my job. Okay, Jessica.
All right, again, promises made, promises kept. Here is Tucker Carlson.
EPA alone gets more than $40 billion in this bill, including more than $30 billion for so-called disadvantaged communities. What are those? Well, they're not really defined. People who vote for Joe Biden. So what it really means is the EPA is going to spread more identity politics and race hate. Are you sick of that yet?
Okay, so Tucker Carlson is saying that the carve-outs in the Inflation Reduction Act for climate action are going to inspire race hate. Before we show more of that video, let's get into what the bill actually will do for disadvantaged communities. So the White House estimates that the law includes over $60 billion in spending on so-called environmental justice. That includes money to reduce emissions around the United States ports, plant trees in city neighborhoods that are hotter because of past racist housing policies, make electric vehicles more affordable, and install solar panels and make buildings more efficient in low-income neighborhoods. But let's also keep in mind there are some ways this bill could actually hurt Black communities, but that's not something that Tucker Carlson bothered to mention. The Emergency Relief for Farmers of Color Act, which passed alongside the American Rescue Plan, called for $4 billion in loan forgiveness to farmers of color, in addition to providing aid to Black growers. The emergency funding marked the first step in correcting decades of discrimination that farmers faced at the hands of the USDA. Yet the loan forgiveness program has been removed from the inflation measure before any dollars could reach farmers. Still, Tucker Carlson focused on the parts of the bill that will impact poor families. Let's watch that.
The total annual budget of the EPA currently stands at about $10 billion. So this is a lot of money flowing to equity and the disadvantaged. And of course, everything hangs on definition. So who gets to define what disadvantage is, a disadvantaged community? Well, that would be the EPA's administrator, a guy called Michael Regan. This is a guy who's in his late 40s who has never had an actual job in his life. He's never worked for real business of any kind. But he does have priorities, and to give you some sense of what they are, we'll tell you what he told The Daily Show this year, and we're quoting, "Everything I do at EPA is through the lens of environmental justice. Contracting, procurement, air quality, water quality, land management starts with, are we protecting the least among us, those who have lacked political representation and those who have not been at the table for decades," end quote. So really, this is about spreading race hate, as virtually everything they do is. They call it equity. It's not about protecting the environment.
Tucker Carlson's racism becomes very evident because every time he covers this on his show, he ignores how systemic racism has economically impacted Black communities. So let's review some of the ways wealth accumulation has been impeded by systems of oppression in the United States. So there were 246 years of chattel slavery, congressional mismanagement of the Freedom's Savings Bank, which left 61,144 depositors with losses of nearly $3 million in 1874, the violent massacre decimating Tulsa's Greenwood District in 1921, a population of 10,000 that thrived as the epicenter of the African-American business and culture community commonly referred to as Black Wall Street, discriminatory policies through the 20th century, including Jim Crow era's black codes, strictly limiting opportunity in many southern states, the GI Bill, the New Deal's Fair Labor Standards Acts, exemption of domestic agricultural and service occupations, and redlining, just to name a few. So wealth was taken from these communities and opportunities were taken from these communities before they ever had a chance to grow, and we're still seeing the lasting impact of that today. There's a huge gap when it comes to income of white versus Black Americans. In 2019, the median white household held $188,000 in wealth, 7.8 times that of the typical Black household. It is worth noting that levels of average wealth, which are more heavily skewed by households with the greatest amount of wealth, are higher. Rich white households reported average wealth of $983,400, which is 6.9 times that of rich Black households. So pretty shocking that Tucker Carlson has the nerve to say what he says and ignore history and not present the facts for their viewers. And it's definitely the case that most people never confront these facts.
Yeah, so there's a couple different components of this story. I'm just gonna do a quick aside when he said that the EPA administrator had never worked a real job in his life. He's worked in government. Well, so do teachers. They work as teachers, a lot of them their whole lives. And Tucker Carlson would say they never had a real job. By the way, here's more government workers, cops. So they've never had a real job. Firemen have never had a real job, okay? But he puts a picture of a Black guy up and says he's never had a job, right? And then he says he's the one doing hate against poor white people. First of all, there's nobody doing hate against white people at all. There's nothing in the bill that punishes white people. That implication is completely fabricated. Okay, now let's get to, well, should there be this money appropriated for these disadvantaged communities. And he thinks that that's outrageous and a racist thing to do. But what he's leaving out is what Jessica just explained. He's leaving out two things. One is what she explained, which is through the history of racism that we've had in this country, not just slavery, not just Jim Crow, not just, hey, 40 acres and a mule, just kidding, we're giving you nothing. But over and over again, systemic discrimination that has robbed African Americans of the ability to collect wealth. And sometimes they would collect wealth, and like in the Tulsa example, oh, you've got a Black Wall Street, people are wealthy now, we'll kill you. And that's how they solved that one. Oh, you can accumulate wealth in your households. In fact, that is the #1 way that all Americans accumulate wealth, in their homes, the property values. Oh, we'll redline you, we'll make sure you can't get homes, you can't get mortgages, so you can't accumulate assets. And then when they started an 8-to-1 disadvantage, the Tucker Carlsons of the world go on TV and go, well, what's the big deal? Now they want to even things a little bit, not by discriminating against white people, but by helping African Americans just a tiny bit after all of those years of discrimination. How dare you? No, you're hating white people if you don't let us keep cheating. And to the Fox News audience, that makes a lot of sense, because they're bathed in entitlement and they think they have a right to have a leg up on you, or maybe 8 legs up on you, as you see the 8-to-1 disparity there. But there's a second issue too, which is actually a lot of minority communities have been targeted for places that create more pollution and industries that create more pollution. So let me tell you about that real quick. According to a 2021 study published in the Journal of Science, Black Americans are exposed to more pollution from every type of source, including industry, agriculture, all manner of vehicles, construction, residential sources, and even emissions from restaurants. People of color more broadly, including Black and Hispanic people and Asian Americans, are exposed to more pollution from nearly every source. And what Tucker Carlson is telling you implicitly in that segment is, good, don't try to fix that. We don't want you fixing it. We want all the pollution going to Black folks. We don't want any kind of compensation, and we want us to keep oppressing them. That's what he just actually told you. Alonzo.
Thank you, Shank, and thank you for the second point you made. I was wondering if you were going to get to that, about how the dump is built in the Black neighborhood. The electrical, that buzzing tower happens to be next to the Black school, and all these kids get cancer and all that. And here's another thing that happens with this so-called disadvantaged communities. A lot of these poor white communities in the South, they get a factory built where they're making, fan blades for wind turbines or something like that. They get a bunch of jobs. Listen, Tucker, if Black people have it so good, why don't you switch places with us? Why don't you switch with us? Switch with me. Since I have it so good, since everything's stacked in my favor, let's switch, and I can be an idiot on TV spreading fear. It's so interesting this came up, because I just had this conversation with a white woman who's an immigrant from another country. She's very right wing, she's very much a Trumper, and she's one of those that believe, well, I don't have any advantages. And I try to explain to her systematic racism and how families accumulate wealth and inherited wealth. Well, I didn't inherit money, I don't have any of that. They can always play the role of the victim all too well. Unfortunately, Cenk, the truths fall on deaf ears. That's really the problem. The people watching Fox News, they never hear this information, and if they do hear it, they don't believe it. To them, the Tulsa massacre, Black Wall Street, like they just deny that it happened. It's not real to them. It's like Holocaust deniers, where they just deny. 400 years of slavery and the Head Start. We got the fact that my great-grandfather bought a house and started a store, and I inherited that, and your great-grandfather legally wasn't allowed to read. Yeah, that means nothing. That doesn't matter. We're on the same level today, aren't we? It is angering, it is ridiculous. His yell of race hate, it's background noise. To tell you the truth, I feel sorry for you guys working at TYT, because you actually have to listen to Tucker Carlson. You have to listen to it on a regular basis. It's the same thing over and over. We are the proud, strong white people who are scared of everything and everyone. I've never seen people so scared of anything even approaching fairness. Tucker Carlson is talking about somebody who doesn't work for a living when his lawyer says that you should not believe. His job is to report, and his lawyer said a person of common sense wouldn't believe him. How's that for not working, Tucker? Who else could be that bad at their job that their lawyer says, well, you don't believe him, do you? I don't know. I'm beyond anger. It's just so ridiculous. I hope this bill works out. I hope that black families and people of color do get some of the jobs and some of the money. What they did to the black farmers was a straight ripoff. White farmers get subsidies you would not believe. This is a criminal thing to do to the black farmers. It is somewhat ironic to take money from black farmers when their ancestors were the slaves that tilled the soil of this country. That's why it's beyond anger, Cenk. It is. I don't have a word. I honestly don't have a word for the ridiculousness of it. And people like Tucker Carlson, I honestly can't listen to. I can hold a conversation, I can hold a debate with someone intelligent who's based in facts. I can't talk to Tucker Carlson, and if you're following him, we got nothing to say.
All right, one last super quick thing. Tucker Carlson inherited the Swanson fortune. And then he says, well, we started on an equal footing. What do you mean? Okay, all right, to Alonzo's point, then why don't you give your Swanson fortune to Alonzo, and then we'll have a conversation. Because you say Alonzo's in better shape, right? And you envy him, okay, you could switch positions by switching wealth. See how that turns out for you. Oh, you don't want to do that, yeah.
Can I make a quick point again, referring to the brilliance of a comedian? Chris Rock said this a long time ago. He said, there's a white guy in the kitchen who won't trade places with me, and I'm rich.
That's a mic drop. That's that. We're gonna try and get through this next story. Let's watch this.
Really, if you look at the Espionage Act, it's not about taking them and putting them in a place that's roughly as safe as they were in the first place.
Okay, so the world of Trump still flailing around, trying to figure out precisely why Donald Trump had classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. And we have more from Rudy Giuliani here. A lot of mental gymnastics going on. Let's watch.
And now they want to make him responsible for having taken classified documents and preserved them. Really, if you look at the Espionage Act, it's not really about taking the documents. It's about destroying them or hiding them or giving them to the enemy.
Right.
It's not about taking them and putting them in a place that's roughly as safe as they were in the first place.
Okay, let's take Rudy Giuliani's advice and take a look at the Espionage Act. Turns out what he just said, completely false. So in fact, 18 US Code 793 makes it a crime for anyone entrusted with or having lawful possession or control of any document relating to the national defense to permit the same to be removed from its proper place of custody with gross negligence. The warrant also alleges that Trump breached 18 US Code 1519, destruction, alteration, or falsification of records in federal investigations and bankruptcy, and 18 US Code 2071, concealment, removal, or mutilation generally. So Rudy got that wrong, but Judy's not alone. We also had Christina Bobb go on Fox News and accidentally admit to some things. Let's watch this.
Was there a limited number of people who had access to that storage room? It seems like a pretty important room, right? Since they've made such a big deal of it and have the lock on it and so forth.
Certainly, Mar-a-Lago is secure in and of itself. Just getting onto the compound is hard. And then it was a locked door, and getting back down into the basement, there's security. You can't just walk down there. Only certain members of staff can get there, and then there's only one key. So yes, it's a very limited number of people that have access down there. And it was enough to where President Trump believed, or our team believed, that it was secure enough. They asked for one more lock, add another lock, which we did. And then for whatever reason, they decided that they still needed to raid the place.
And only one or two people had access to that room, to your knowledge?
That's my understanding. I mean, I would have to check with the maintenance of that area, but my understanding is a very small number of people that could get in there.
All right, I want us to skip over to graphic 5. This is from the Huffington Post reporting, HuffPost. Trump's document facility was a storage room off an interior hallway near the pool with boxes everywhere. That pool was a major part of the social scene at the resort and a focal point of activity as part of Mar-a-Lago's day-to-day business. In other words, these documents were regularly near a ton of people. And we have more reporting on what Mar-a-Lago was like back in 2017. He was taking meetings with Abe Shizo at the dinner table and turned it into an impromptu situation room. Mar-a-Lago member Richard D'Agazio, my Italian family is really upset at me for not pronouncing that properly. He continued taking pictures and he posted them on Facebook that night. The president receiving news about the missile incident from North Korea on Japan with the prime minister sitting next to him. So he's taking public phone calls in Mar-a-Lago where people can overhear them. He was not careful about where these documents were or where national security matters were discussed.
Okay, so Mar-a-Lago is a disaster and it's Swiss cheese. So, I mean, I can't figure out which one was worse. I think it's the latter in terms of Rudy Giuliani and Christina Bobb, who's now Trump's new lawyer. She's like, oh, Rudy, you think you could screw up your client's case on national television? Hold my beer, watch me do this. So first of all, they're both admitting that the documents were there. So there goes your, the FBI planted it excuse, which by the way, as we talked about on a previous show, that's the lie they should have stuck with. That would have been hard to disprove, but instead the idiot Donald Trump taped it from the security camera, so now we know the FBI didn't plant it, and now they're all on television going, oh, they were there, but they were perfectly secure. Christina Bobb says, oh, they asked us to add another lock. No, they asked you to add a lock. It's sitting in a storage closet that anybody can walk into without a lock. And it's our top nuclear secrets. That's insane. Okay, now let me give you more context. Not only did the rando Mar-a-Lago dude walk in the middle of that conversation with the leader of Japan that Jessica just read you, but it's first of all, that place I guarantee you is littered with spies. All you have to do is pay $200,000 admission fee and boom, you're in. So I would be shocked if every major country didn't have a spy at Mar-a-Lago. It would actually be absolute negligence if they didn't. He's leaving around nuclear secrets. And right now, if they didn't have spies in Mar-a-Lago, every country's going, oh, God damn it, why didn't we do that? It would have been so easy. But not only that, once a Chinese tourist just walked into Mar-a-Lago, just walked in, okay? She was wandering around, they found her. They claim she's a tourist. It's also entirely possible she wasn't a tourist, okay? They probably figured out later, just pay the admission fee, which for a country is nothing. Okay, now I'll give you one more example. Bachelorette contestant James McCoy Taylor was there. Why? Because the right wing is desperate for any celebrity to be on their side. They're like, oh, he was a former Bachelorette contestant. He's really famous. So they have him going around Mar-a-Lago. And don't get this guy twisted. He loves Trump. He even wrote a song, and here's one of the goofy lines from it. I just want a president who ain't woke, so I can live in a country not broke. That's that guy, okay? So now here's what he said about his time at Mar-a-Lago. Quote, I snooped around pretty dang freely and Secret Service wasn't too worried about which room I went in, what I looked at, and I certainly didn't get the sense that there were any rooms I wasn't allowed in containing nuclear info. LOL. This guy's walking around, he's like, there's no room I couldn't go into. Security never stopped me. They had it in an unlocked room. And by the way, Rudy, you're like, no, the Espionage Act. He misquotes it as Jessica explained, etc. But he's like, so it's only a problem if you're gonna give it to our enemies. Why do you think Trump had it, you idiot? And so here's his lawyers admitting all over television, we had it. Random staffers had access to it. Anyone who went to Mar-a-Lago had access to it. They're like, oh, it's essentially the same. Do you know that those top secret, that information are kept in specific rooms that are highly guarded, that have massive security around it? They're not like a storage room at Mar-a-Lago that James McCoy Taylor can walk into and go, hey, I can walk into any dang room, including the one with the nuclear secrets. That's what's happening at Mar-a-Lago.
Thanks for painting that picture.
There should be a game show. It's called America's Worst Lawyer. And we have the contestants right here. And you could throw in Alex Jones's lawyer who sends all of his cell phone records to the other side. That's a competitor, but it really is hard to beat Trump's lawyers when it comes to being bad. The funniest thing about Rudy is what he said the Espionage Act isn't. That's exactly what it is. It literally says you cannot take secrets out of the secure government facility. Like, it literally says that. And he's like, well, that's not it. Wow, how can you be so bad as a lawyer? And the woman brought up another point that's very funny when she said the maintenance of the building. You know who has the keys to every room at Mar-a-Lago? I guarantee you, the cleaning staff, the maintenance people can get, I guarantee you, the maintenance people have the key to that top secret room in the basement. And by the way, that is the best place to secure things. I think Fort Knox was actually thinking of moving the gold down to a storage room in the basement and putting a second lock on the door, because what could be more secure than that? It's comical, and what you said is absolutely true. Actually, I think the problem with the spies, the reason they don't take the information, I think the spies are like, no, it can't be this easy. This has to be false. This has to be a setup. It can't, they wouldn't just leave it in the room next to the pool where I was changing clothes. Those couldn't be the real nuclear secrets, could they? Next to the bar where we keep the extra gin and vodka. Those are the nuclear secrets? No, this is a setup. They've got a camera somewhere. Yeah, in a way it is safe, because no spy worth his salt. You've seen spies, you've seen how hard Tom Cruise works to get into a room. Tom Cruise never walks into the storage room next to the pool. No, that had to be fake information. That had to be. Where's the real information hidden, Cenk?
Okay, I tell you, man, every country has our nuclear secrets now. Because all you had to do was either
they're not secrets. They're not secrets anymore. They're party favors. Yeah, come on down to Mar-a-Lago, grab a nuclear secret, and head on home.
Totally, pigs in a blanket and nuclear secrets. Because I mean, not only could you go as a guest, you think Trump has really high standards and they're vetting all the staff there? You don't have any idea how easy it would be for a spy to get hired as a staff member at Mar-a-Lago and then just get the keys to every room?
Can I jump in really quick on that, Cenk? Just be brown, have a Spanish accent, you got the job. That's their only, that's the only thing they're looking for. It's, oh, you're a minority? Yes, you'd be a perfect cleaning person. Help yourself to some secrets.
Yeah, so they all have them. And Alonzo's absolutely right. Like the spy is gonna be like, done. Oh, it's right here, okay. And he just goes home.
To wrap this up, the web of lies from the right, they have now said that actually these documents were about to be declassified. There was a standing order for that. Really, you're gonna declassify the nuclear codes? 18 former Trump administration officials said they have never heard of such an order issued during their time working for Trump, and that they believe the claim to be patently false. Several officials laughed at the notion. One senior administration official called it bull S-word. Two of Trump's former chiefs of staff, John Kelly and Mick Mulvaney, went on the record to knock down the claim. So, to recap the lies that have been told, Trump didn't actually take classified documents, and the FBI actually found nothing, it's all made up. That he didn't take documents, but the FBI planted them when they got there. That he didn't take the documents, but he intended to declassify them beforehand, and there was a standing order for that. And finally, that he did take the classified papers, but only to protect them at Mar-a-Lago. Those are all of our lies. They seem really legit.
All right, we are way out of time. We gotta go. Everybody check out Jessica Burbank and Alonzo Bowden on Rebel Headquarters, and make sure you're checking out Alonzo's new special on YouTube, Stupid Don't Get Tired. And I think we kind of proved that through all the right wingers we showed you this hour. I mean, Rudy hasn't gotten tired in decades, okay?
Can I give the opening statement on Trump's next lawyer? You see, Your Honor, what had happened was on the day in question per se, Your Honor, sir, I just got the job.
By the way, a lot of the lawyers will not take that job. Most of the lawyers say they refuse to work for Donald Trump. They're like, I'm not that stupid. So these are the folks who said,
he doesn't pay you.
Yeah, and these are the folks that said, yeah, I am that stupid. Okay, all right, we gotta go. Second hour is amazing, stay right here.
Our system is inherently rigged against the will of the people. They have 50% of the vote.
And in a democracy, they should have 50% of the seats.
But if you live in an insanely gerrymandered district, your vote functionally doesn't matter.
We drew the map in a way that even though we get 50% of the vote, we're gonna get 13 out of the 18 seats.
You don't actually have the ability to translate the will of the voters in your area into actual government policy.
They should not be allowed to gerrymander these districts. We should actually have a democracy.
I've been honest with him. Like, yeah, I was upset with you and I should have done it. But instead I was like, I'm just trying to protect my engagement ring.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor, or concern for whose toes we might step on, or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
Indisputable has been named the fastest growing news TV show in the United States of America, compared to all shows on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and roughly 30 others. What do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable. Donald Trump radicalized citizens. He's the chief terrorist. Republicans still want you to think that critical race theory is the greatest evil that can happen in K-12 education. It's not even taught. I guarantee you this, David. If he would have taken a knee during the national anthem to bring awareness to the need for more money for cancer research in America, he would not have had that response. It was the fact that he took a knee for black folk and brown folk. You rather pick the voters because you're scared of the voters picking the politicians. It frightens you. But we coming. When you are in a privileged position, equality looks like oppression to you. The Karenicity runs deep in this one. We provide a mirror for reflection and a mirror for correction.
So what if I have 35? Don't hit me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
So let's put up the graphic of this Karen in peak performance. Boom. They want anarchy so they can start creating their own rules.
Can you share with me some examples?
When they were running around during the terrorist attack on January 6th saying, hang Mike Pence. So those are the people I'm talking about. That's a problem, correct? You work for Mike Pence, stand up for the guy. Do not allow the ideology of politics to evaporate the humanity that still exists inside of you. They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, so I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reformed in this country, so I won't stop. And you won't stop either.
All right, power panel. Cenk Uygur, Ben Glebe. His new special dropped recently. The Mad King. It's on YouTube. J.R. Jackson. He's the watcher on the wall, the watch list. So make sure you're checking that out. 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern every day. And you know what? I see that we got a little bit of a Game of Thrones theme here. The Mad King, the Watcher on the wall. Interesting.
I should probably watch that so I can know what you're talking about.
Yeah, maybe.
I got to get past season 3.
Yeah.
I liked it through season 3, and then I kind of.
Oh, you never finished? You're the only person I've ever met who hasn't finished Game of Thrones.
I know. Well, I don't want it to be ever spoiled for me, so I'm not going to get there.
Okay, all right, fair enough. All right, and then Trent Deverell, of course, is also here. Trent just upgraded his membership to premium on YouTube. So Trent, you're kind of awesome. He hit the join button. It's not just for joining, also for upgrading. Think about it.
He's also more awesome than me because I just bang my knee very hard under the table. So I'll be fine, but just, give me a minute.
Yeah, well, he is the Mad King. All right, JR.
Let's get started, you guys. We always hear stories about racial bias in the housing market, redlining, all these things, but people don't always believe it. Well, there's one particular black family in their suburban home. They are selling, at least they're trying to refinance it, and they're showing some significant racial bias when it comes to the housing market, especially when it comes to appraisals. So let's jump right into it, because the difference in what they got at first versus what they then saw later when they changed a couple of minor details was about $300,000. Let's get some details of how that happened. Last summer, Nathan Conley and his wife, Shani Mott, welcomed an appraiser into their house in Baltimore, hoping to take advantage of historically low interest rates and refinance their mortgage. They believed that their house, improved with a new 5,000 tankless water heater and $35,000 in other renovations, was worth much more than the $450,000 that they paid for it in 2017. $450,000 in 2017, excuse me. Home prices have been on the rise nationwide since the pandemic, so they were thinking, hey, especially in Baltimore, by the way, they've gone up more than 40% in the past 5 years. So of course, Dr. Conley and Dr. Mott, they live in this majority white North Baltimore neighborhood of Homeland, is where their home is, and it's known for its strong public schools. This is perfect for making sure that you have more when it comes to your home. So they tried it. The couple applied to refinance their mortgage with Loan Depot in May of 21. The lender approved a loan at a rate of 2.25% and told the couple that their home was likely now worth $550,000 or more. To conduct the appraisal, Loan Depot hired 2020 Valuations, which is a Maryland appraisal company, as a subcontractor. The 2020 Valuations put the home's value at $472,000. And in turn, Loan Depot denied the couple their refinancing of their loan. So as I said, $472,000, which is only $22,000 more than the original pay back in 2017 in a market where everything is exploding, as we know. Dr. Conley said that he knew why. He, his wife, and 3 children aged 15, 12, and 9 are black. He's a professor of history at Johns Hopkins University. Dr. Conley is an expert on redlining and the legacy of white supremacy in American cities, and much of his research focuses on the role of race in the housing market. They chose the wrong guy.
Man, did they run into the wrong dude.
I mean, just they do it enough times, eventually you're gonna get the wrong one. So a little bit more on this. Maybe the inspector didn't even notice their race. Who knows? Let's look at what was in the house. Dr. Conley and Mott and their 3 children were home during the appraiser's visit, and their house was so filled with family photos, children's drawings of figures with dark skin, a poster of the film Black Panther, and literature by black authors, because Dr. Mott lectures on literature and Africana studies. So when they tried to challenge the appraisal's number there, they stopped returning their calls. Like, no, we don't want to hear from you. Yes, you got what you were supposed to get. That's just what it is. Several months later, they applied for a new loan with a different mortgage company, and they tried something different. This time they underwent a whitewashing experiment, is what they called it, removing indications of blackness from their home and replacing them with signifiers that a white family might live there instead. They cleared their bookshelves of works by black authors. They asked their white friends to share family photos and placed those in picture frames around the house on their walls. And they even hung art that was bought at IKEA that showed white folks. Is what they said. We had to have a conversation with our kids about why we're pulling down all their drawings. It's very humiliating to strip your house of your own home. On the day of the second appraisal, they left their home and had the white colleague answer the door. The second appraiser provided the $750,000 $50,000 estimate. Now before it was 472 from the original 450, and now it's 750 with different artwork, books, and a person answering the door.
Okay, good news for white folks, because you're gonna need to be rented out soon. A new line of work for you guys, because if I'm selling my house, I'm not gonna have me, a brown Turkish Middle Eastern guy and my Asian wife. I'm gonna rent some white folks, and all of a sudden we're gonna get much bigger prices. So congrats, white folks. No, seriously, guys. I mean, look, the difference isn't subtle. It's not like, hey, 472, oh, they went to 482. Well, hey, look, that's $10,000 difference, man. Oh my God, 500, 550. Oh, that's over $60,000, $70,000 difference. That would be amazing. No, 750, 750. Same exact house. There's no way to dispute that. And look, you can say it's just one case, but there's meta studies on this. So it's not like, I mean, the reason we kept laughing about it, they ran into the wrong dude, is because he's seen those studies. He teaches those studies. It happens on a macro level. It happens all across the country, and it's documented, it's proven. This just happens to be a spectacular case of it, where you can actually at least identify with it. I mean, if you have any bone in your body that allows you to empathize with other human beings. In other words, if you're not a right winger, okay, then you could say, oh yeah, man, I see that, man. I know my house. Oh yeah, what if I did that? And then we brought in the blonde folks, and then all of a sudden it was worth, $300,000 more. You could relate to it, and that's what happens, and it just happened to them.
And there's been more accusations against this company, so it's not just isolated. This is just the perfect proof example that they have. And it's just so not surprising, but so sad and so just disheartening to see that redlining apparently is still alive and well, and not even in full neighborhoods now. Even in a white neighborhood, if there's a black-owned house, they're drawing a red line around just individual houses now. This is where we're at.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because in the old school, redlining was black folks weren't allowed to own homes, get mortgages, et cetera, in certain neighborhoods, and they were shepherded into specific places, and then the property values were driven down, right? Now, you're in the best neighborhoods, that you're on a red line right around your house, like Ben said, and go, we're redlining anyway.
It reminds me of that classic old Chris Rock bit. I don't know if it's classic, but it's a good bit. He was telling the story about the neighborhood that he lives in. I think it was like in Maryland or so, I don't remember exactly where, maybe Pennsylvania, but he said, here's what shows the difference in this country between wealth and just people that make it to a certain level of success in the black community versus the white community. He said his neighborhood, he has like Mary J. Blige lives on that street, Will Smith, pre-slap, Chris Rock. It was like 3 or 4 of the most successful black people in the world, like in pop culture history, had to get to that level of success to live on that block, and their white neighbor, just a dentist.
Yep. I remember that.
You remember that
story?
Just a dentist.
Yeah. And by the way, this comes to like the opportunity when it comes to America, right? The land of opportunity, where you have upward mobility. If you work hard, put your head down, and do the right things, become professionals like these 2 doctors are, and then really you'll take off. Own property, have a piece of our country, right? They were doing that. And if you believe in all that stuff, if you like the rest of the world to be like, we're the shining example on the hill, there's a land of opportunity, that we bring the brightest and the best, you should be the most upset about this. They're tarnishing this dream that you say exists in our country. This is where the lie comes in. Do you want it to be real, or do you just want to say it is, and then when it's not? You should be the one defending these folks. You should be the one that's talking about how they got screwed over, and I can't believe in my country, in my America, where opportunities for everyone, and we're past that whole racism thing. There's no such thing as this racial bias in housing and redlining. You would like for it to actually be true, wouldn't you? That's the people that should be that most outraged about this.
It's just insane that we can't. America has amazing PR. The fact that we still are considered the greatest country in the world by many, the fact that we still, despite this incredibly tarnished history and reputation constantly, it's just so frightening that we can't fix these things with more urgency. I mean, why are we a shining city on a hill? Because that's the one hill that's not redlined with black people around it? I mean, what does it take to finally create equality? We need to start punishing people, punishing companies, punishing organizations that prove any sort of racial bias. It's like a 1-strike warning and then you're out. Like, all right, that's your 1. And you do it again, you're out. You're gonna lose your accreditation with the Better Business Bureau. You're gonna lose, the Chamber of Commerce is gonna kick you out. We cannot keep saying, oh, well, we gotta fix this slowly. No, we gotta fix it decades ago.
Yeah. By the way, Tucker Carlson just did a segment on race hate, saying that anything that's looking to address discrimination is race hate, right? So he would take what Ben said and go, oh, look at this. They're looking to punish companies just based on discrimination. Yeah. Well, I mean, so do you want our houses to be worth $300,000 less because are we just supposed to take that?
Yes.
And are we supposed to say, oh, thank you, sir, may I have another? And JR's right, yeah, Tucker thinks, oh, absolutely. Our house is supposed to be unfairly worth nearly twice as much as your house. And if you're trying to fix it, that's race hate to me. And so that's where we are today.
The kings of false equivalency.
All right, we gotta take a break, right?
Yep.
All right, we gotta take a break. When we come back, oh boy. So now they're gonna monitor your right wingers. I mean, whoever has an idea to monitor your kids in a totally disgusting way. All right, we'll be back. All right, back during the social break here. Robert John Gavin is one of our members. In fact, Robert Roden finally became a member because I believe in truth. Thank you. No, right back at you, Robert. Thank you. We can't do the show without you guys. But the great upside of that is, once we have you, they can't touch us. They can't be like, oh yeah, what if we take away your, your billionaire donors? Sorry, don't have it. Okay, we have you guys, and they can't touch us. I love it. Keep it going. Mr. Lumberg, AKA Initech Dragon, says, Protect Children's Innocence Act. That's the Marjorie Taylor Greene attack against trans kids that we explained in the first hour. Co-sponsored by Gates, if I'm not mistaken. It would be ironically hilarious if it wasn't so tragic. Yeah, one of the co-sponsors has literally been charged, well, not technically charged with yet, but there are allegations that he slept with an underage child. And he's going to protect your children. Is he? Is he?
He'll personally protect them. He will take it upon himself to send them to me. I mean, my God.
Right, let alone the one that he fake adopted. So there's like, Jesus, I don't know what the hell's going on. All right, a very stable photographer wrote in, and this is a really interesting story. My younger sibling is transgender. My mother has been amazingly accepting. Anything less than absolute acceptance is so dangerous in a population of extremely high self-harm rate. That is so true. And what the right wing is saying through that act and everything else that they're doing is, no, we don't care that they have a high rate of suicide. And to be fair, there's tiny little exceptions to the monstrous right wing rule that exists in America today. As we explained in the first hour, the governor of Utah is a Republican, and he's like, what problem are we addressing? There's one trans girl in high school sports in all of Utah. You guys are passing a bill over this, and when you pass bills like this, the rates of suicide in this community goes up. That was a Republican governor, right? And he said, no, I don't want to be part of this. But you know what they did? The rest of the Republican legislators in Utah overrode his veto. They were so unanimous in their desire to hate people. And when, by the way, they then put pressure on parents. Remember, don't believe your kids, hate your own kids, and tell them to hate themselves. And the fact that your mom didn't fall into that, we love her for it, thank you. Eclectic Miscellaneous says, Tucker really does look like he's befuddled all the time, doesn't he? Maybe making that stupid face is the only way he can avoid laughing or shaking his head at the idiotic things most of his guests say. There has to be a reason, and that's not a bad guess. Because he doesn't want to have natural human reactions to the absurdities. So he's like, I'll just go with a face that no one could possibly think I was making up, like this one.
And because when he laughs, he sounds like a deviled elf. He just turns into this very weird. He shows the non-humanity coursing through his veins.
That's so true. And then Mickey C, the Silver Dragon wrote in, love me some JR, no such thing as too much of him. right. Yes. Watch him every day on Watch List. So that's 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. We'll see you in a second. On TYT, Cenk, Ben, and JR with you guys. Electric Snow wrote it on Twitch. Rent me, Cenk. That's a different thing. All right, JR.
I'm glad that was directed at you. Let's jump to the next story. Yes. You ever wonder how kids are monitored throughout their school, especially when they go on bathroom breaks? It's something that teachers always bugged us about. You know what? They've solved the problem and they've generated a new one instead. Schools in the US have added this new tool to monitor how long children go to bathroom breaks. Not only how long, but where they go. Let's go to some details. This thing is called eHall Pass. It's a digital system that students have to use to request to leave their classroom, which takes note of how long they've been away, including to visit the bathroom. This is spread into schools around the United States, hopefully not yours, because this is how this thing works. The system itself works as a piece of software installed on a computer or a mobile device. Students request a pass through the software and the teacher then approves it. The tool promises hall omniscience.
Omniscience, which is pretty scary.
With the ability to always know who has a pass and who doesn't without asking the student. That's according to the product's website. Here's an image from their site, which shows how totally encompassing this whole thing is. The things they want to make sure teachers know is happening with these students when they go on bathroom breaks. More, admins can then access data collected through the software and then view a live dashboard showing details on all passes. eHall Pass can also stop meetups of certain students and limit the amount of passes going to certain locations. This website also adds that, explicitly mentioning vandalism and TikTok challenges. Gotta knock those out. There's more. EduSpire, the company that makes eHall Pass, told trade publication EdSurge in March that 1,000 schools use the system. Brian Tvenstrup, president of EduSpire, told the outlet that the company's biggest obstacle to selling the product is when a school isn't culturally ready to make those kinds of changes yet. See what you think that means. So not culturally ready yet. Now here's more about how this is getting even scarier. The system has some resemblance to sort of worker monitoring carried out by Amazon, which tracks how long its staff go to the toilet for and is used to penalize workers for time off task. It also highlights how automated tools have led to increased surveillance of students in schools and employees in places of work. So now there's over a dozen online petitions, as this has caught wind, of course, for this whole thing to be replaced, maybe not monitor your kids so much. One of those petitions reads, we're expected to be young adults, and by this EHP system taking place this year, we have a great amount of freedom and independence being taken away. Many students that attend Indy have come together and decided to petition against this new system that has been created. We, as the students, feel as if we're being watched and monitored at all times throughout our school day, which is extremely uncomfortable. So, Jake, you guys can't meet up. You guys can't be in that particular bathroom. You can't be in that other hallway. And in fact, you've been there for 45 seconds. Where is the urine?
Yeah, so first of all, Fauci and Bill Gates are gonna put chips in our heads and they're gonna track us. Why? We're tracked all the time through these corporations that you guys love so much in the right wing. Why would they even need to put a chip in our heads?
We keep opting in.
Yeah, and then, but I got to give the schools credit. They're finally doing job training. They say they don't do it. There it is. Okay, Amazon's going to track how long you spend in the bathroom. Now the school's tracking how long you spend in the bathroom. Thank God. The one thing I really need, I got 2 young kids in school and they're 9 and 12 years old, but I don't know how long they spend in the bathroom. This is a thing that I gotta know.
What kind of parent are you, Cenk?
Yeah, let's see.
You don't know the exact length of their pee?
Yeah, this is. I'm glad there's an app so that someone could make a lot of money off of this junk that's actually super counterproductive and takes away our privacy, so that you could tell teachers later, we ran out of money and you're gonna have to buy the books for the kids.
Peeing. There's an app for that. I mean, this is insane. They've never gotten hall passes right, because now, even the way this is gonna work, because the old school way they did it was just the arbitrary, oh, you wanna go pee? Sure, grab the hall pass. And it was always some random object the teacher had, an eraser, a paperweight, a wooden whale. So you had to go pee holding the same object everybody else held. Flawed system right there. How about just say, can I go to the bathroom? And say, okay, maybe mark down the time if they're taking too long. So now they're going phones with it. So now the kid's gonna get in trouble for pulling out their phone during class. Sorry, I was not texting. I was just asking if I can go number 2. Is that all right? I mean, they just can't. How about just run a class where you have the respect of the students? If you got to track and put on a little piece of paper, be like, he goes to the bathroom every day for 30 minutes. That's excessive. Let's talk about it.
That's what I wanted
That's
to
your
ask,
solution.
Actually. I'm glad you brought up that way, because number one, actually, the hall passes were always something wooden because they needed something that's brown, so that you couldn't tell what's on it. Just saying. I thought about that as a 12-year-old. I was like, why? Anyways,
Parent of JR.
It's like, I don't want to touch this. Number 2, okay, say you have 4 troublesome kids in class, because they're kids who like to go in the hallway and do their shenanigans. How do you monitor that though, or keep them from being out in the hallway, missing the class, and they come back in and they're failing tests, and I'm not a good teacher anymore? What's the best way though? I mean, I disagree with this whole electronic monitoring, but then there could be people that said, well, what the hell? Come on.
Yeah, look, it's called being an administrator, a teacher, etc. It's not like these are new problems. We've dealt with these for decades. Because you know why? Sometimes kids like to, in the old days, I don't know if they still do it, they would smoke in the back, okay? They'd smoke in the bathroom, they would make out in the bathroom, whatever they were doing, okay? Shenanigans have existed for a long time. We're not saying, let the shenanigans go. Let them go nuts. Let them smoke and make out at the same time and never come back from the bathroom. No, we used to, as Ben said, they would know. Bobby takes an awfully long time.
Yeah,
and
one person goes at once. You allow one person to go till they come back, except for rare emergencies when a guy's guilty, jumping up and down saying, I really gotta pee like right now. Maybe you make an exception. You just use human judgment. Draconian tracking of students' movements is not the way to make them like school more. They already find school to be very restrictive. And that to me is the biggest problem in general with our education system. It's always just been this very punitive vibe. Always school never makes it like, here, you're gonna be at school, you may as well make the most of it, we're gonna teach you how to build life skills. They never take a day at the beginning of each semester to explain context. Here's why you're gonna learn what you're gonna learn, here's how it'll help you in your life. It's just from minute 1, here's your syllabus, you have to read 42 books, take 87 tests. If you miss one of them, you're gonna fail, your life's over. How about just get students to opt in, get them excited about it, and then you get a culture that's a lot more chill and a lot more of students being enthusiastic about their education. You do the same with breaks. You just have a policy that's common sense. You can go, not every day, not for a long time, not multiple at once. There's somebody monitoring the halls anyway. We don't have to put trackers on them.
Yeah, in fact, we love our members. We do the show with you guys. Pickled Narwhal wrote in on Twitch, so like an ankle bracelet for school kids. Yeah, pretty much. So this is what I hate about it. There's a couple of components here. One is the needless invasion of our privacy over and over and over again. And then 2 is making school feel like a prison. We're tracking you, where are you going? Oh, you spent 35 seconds in the bathroom. That's it, you're in trouble, okay? Beep, 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 where are you now? Oh my God, you went into the yard for a second. We caught you, beep, 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 beep.
Beep, 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 that's the sound that this system's gonna make.
Right. Oh yeah, you took too long, Why haven't you done it already? They're already nervous enough at the urinal.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Here's a good barometer how you can know if the system you're suggesting for children at school is good or not. If it's something that has been used to punish Andy Dick, maybe don't do it for school children. Ankle bracelet vibes, maybe not the move. You know what I mean? You gotta earn that.
And finally, come back to the reason why this even exists, okay? Money. Somebody thought of this idea, why don't we track the kids? And then I guarantee you they grease some politicians and this and that along the way. And then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, I'm getting a piece of the action here. Oh, that's gonna help my reelection to get a little contribution from these guys. All right, give me 50 bucks and I'll put it in the schools and you'll get 5 million bucks. And it's because otherwise, I mean, at a bare minimum, it's totally unnecessary, especially when we can't buy the kids books, right?
That's the thing, it's
but
so
somebody's making serious bucks off of this, and that's why it exists.
The teachers have to buy their own pencils and crayons for the kids because we've invested a bunch to know exactly how long they pee, so we can get pee time averages. That's the important priority in America's education system. The only thing maybe this did pop in my head, I maybe would be in favor of a tracking system like this for Congress. That's not a bad idea. I'd like to see where they're going and what they're spending their time doing.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We got a deal. I'll let you track the kids in the school if we can track the Congress members. Yes. I guarantee they're like, well, you know, I don't know that we need it. I don't know that we need it. Okay.
They always complain that they're the body that no one likes. Monitor.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, we got to take a break, guys. When we come back, we've got more nonsense.
The Bible.
The Bible. Okay. How's that for a deal?
Sexual anarchy.
Two quick plugs, shoptyt.com. It's got the great, we're going to talk about the Bible. It's got Anna's Bible quote. I don't care what the Bible says. That clip has been seen on TikTok at least 58 million times.
Wow.
Okay, but you can get the shirts at shoptyt.com. You're going to love them. Apparently the whole country loves them. Aspiration is an awesome sponsor. I love having progressive sponsors. And you can track your carbon footprint now. That's another great way for you to get more out of Aspiration. Mainly, you put your money there, you get great rates, and you get 1% back, by the way. And make sure that you're checking out what the differences are between the debit cards, the credit cards, etc. But they don't give any money to fossil fuels companies, and I plant trees. It's not a big deal. There's a little bit of a jank forest. Okay, just what it is, what it is. Aspiration.com/TYT. Join the fun. Okay, now I've got more comments for you guys.
Jank forest also in Game of Thrones?
Oh, could be, could be. Now we're thinking. Okay, now we're having a conversation.
Do you plant trees wearing a blazer and a button-down shirt?
I do, because all I do is I hand in my aspiration card. Boom, just planted a tree. Okay. Tatiana in Japan says, I'm a teacher. My restroom pass gets set on their desk while they go to the restroom. This way I can visually see where they are.
That's
great.
Smart.
You see that?
And no poo on it.
Yeah, it's bingo.
What were you using the hall pass for? I don't know if I want the answer to that.
Okay, speaking of gross comments, Phil from the members section comments, Deuce Pass will track your students' movements. Terrible, terrible.
Deuce Pass.
Okay. All right, the Crow 187 on Twitch says, today's my son Ishmael's birthday. He turned 11. Can you get a shout out? Happy birthday, Ishmael. So love to have all you guys with us. Link the Hylian Dragon says 2 years, too strong. There you go, subscribe for 24 months as you can figure out there. In Your Dreams gifted 5 subs on Twitch, so we love that, thank you. Cody, the Epilepsy Dragon says, love Ben's most recent RHQ video about Charlie Kirk, F Charlie. So check out Ben's clips on Rebel Headquarters, you'll love them.
I went hard on him, I went pretty hard.
And Wang Jun wrote in, watch Ben's special to Mad King last night. It was hilarious. Also shout out to TYT member Dubdrin for gifting me a sub. Oh, look at that. We love the community working together. All right, we'll be right back.
Truly believe that this is a human being. This,
Without a doubt.
without a doubt,
Yes.
this is a dolphin fetus.
John, TYT, Cenk, Ben, and JR with you guys, and Gary. Gary Cole just became a member by hitting the join button below. We appreciate it. Okay, speaking of YouTube, because that's the join buttons on YouTube, the Mad King's on YouTube. That is Ben Gleif's special that just came out. Let's show you a little clip.
But no matter how much it becomes obvious, hopefully to any good-minded person, moral, caring person, that you should never discriminate against a group of people, people will still do it. People are still going to discriminate against different groups of people. It'll never end. And so to them, I just want to remind these people that you can still judge people privately. You just don't have to pass laws to get in their way, you know what I mean? You can still judge people in the privacy of your own home. Just don't try to make their lives more difficult, all right? Because there's someone we all judge. We all judge some group of people. So just because these people, oh, your opinion is you don't think transgender people are real women or real men, good for you, good for you. Say it at your Thanksgiving table and be an unhappy family, do it. Just hate on people, because we all judge someone. I don't like adults who skateboard. I think it's very stupid, and I don't think they're real men, to be honest with you. I'm not trying to stop them from using the bathroom they identify with, you understand? Live and let live, for crying out loud.
I don't want to get into how much I agree with you on skaters. Okay, especially adult ones. So I'm gonna leave it there. All right, everybody, you got to check out the special. It's called The Mad King. It's on YouTube. It's super easy. Do it right after the show.
Thank you so much for that. Just because it's so hard to get mass popularity for things that are saying important things these days. Comedy, I feel like, has been so dumbed down to lowest common denominator is what just blows up. And the comedy stars are tending right these days, and they're not saying anything that will help the world or help enlighten people's minds. So I'm trying to show that you can have hard laughs while also standing for good values. And so I hope people check it out.
Yeah, I love that message, and I love that you did a segment that was against hate. And what I took away from it is, yeah, I hate skaters too.
I'm just trying to come up with bits that are actually going to maybe change some minds, because you're not going to get rid of all racism. So it's like, fine, but that doesn't make your opinion better than the groups we all judge. Just stop trying to get in people's way. This is not the issue that needs to tear the country apart.
100%. All right, Chair.
Let's jump to this next video, you guys.
A Texas school district is pulling the Bible from its library shelves. It's among some 40 titles now under review in the Keller Independent School District in Texas, along with Anne Frank's diary and illustrated version. Right now, Keller ISD's administration is asking our campus staff and librarians to review books that were challenged last year to determine if they meet the requirements of the new policy. Books will be returned to the libraries as soon as it is confirmed that they comply with the new policy. So Lisa, the school district apparently got accused of having books with sexual content, so they put under review all of these books. There were 3 parent complaints about the Bible, one was withdrawn, citing sexual content and violence. My question is, were these people, these anonymous individuals, asleep when they learned that kindergarten through second graders were being taught across the country sexually explicit content like body parts in vivid detail? You don't believe me? Google what they teach in New York City private schools.
Maybe you don't want to believe her. These Fox News hosts, led by Kayleigh McEnany there, they will not stand for these book bans anymore of the Bible. Yes, she was there on Outnumbered with the rest of her co-hosts there, and they were complaining about Big Brother coming and taking out books, actually reviewing books that are in our children's classrooms. I mean, the Bible. They completely missed the point, of course, all irony involved. In fact, they continue complaining. Watch this.
So to your point, the book Genderqueer, the Washington Post, hardly a conservative publication, as you know.
Yes.
This is how they describe one of the scenes in that book that was also targeted. A sexual fantasy of the authors is depicted in which an apparently teenage youth is about to engage in a sexual act with an older bearded man. But you contrast that, Emily, with the Bible, the most read book in all of human history. In fact, over the last 50 years, nearly 4 billion copies have been sold. Compare that to Harry Potter, which is number 3 at 400 million. Not only that, foundation of the world's largest religion, a classic historical text. If you don't believe it in the religious context, at least we can be appreciated in that context, but that's the one we're removing.
The fact that because one person or 3 people put the Bible on that is absolutely horrifying. This is when the school administration administrators need to step up and say, absolutely not. You know what? We don't need a committee right now to discuss this for 40 minutes. It's going back on the shelf. But every day without the Bible is a day lost, and that Bible should be back on the shelves.
Agreed.
It's a day lost. Every day without the Bible on shelves is a day lost.
Like they're ever reading the Bible.
Yeah, God. If you, there's an illustration of supremacy there. It's the most read book ever. It's the most sold book ever. So therefore, it can't be taken off any shelves. It's a constant reminder that they think they're better than everyone else.
Our religion's number one.
Okay, so let's note a couple of things here. Number one, if you notice, Kayleigh McEnany said, you can check that out in New York private schools. Oh, so we're not talking about public schools. So you're pretending that we're talking about public schools, but your examples from a private school, all the legislation you're passing is about public schools. Oh, right, that gets to the main point. You're the one who wanted to ban books. You're the one who actually passed legislation in places like Tennessee. They had a book burning in Tennessee, okay? That's the right wing, that wasn't us. But I will confess that on one of the videos where we covered their book bans, I said, sexually explicit and violent imagery, well, then they should ban the Bible because it's filled with it, right? And now that 1 to 3 parents, as they said, complained about it, they're like, oh, what are we gonna do now? Just listen to parents? That's what you said. You said, oh, well, I got 1 to 3 right-wing parents who are complaining about this book that's like won prizes and etc. and is like revered, but I got 1 to 3 randos who are complaining. And then you notice what she said, oh, we don't need a committee, you just put it right back in, okay? But wait a minute, you guys said we need a committee to ban books. So now when all of a sudden it applies to the Bible, all of a sudden you're like, no, that's it, forget it. Okay, ban all the other books, but not our book, okay? Now, if the Bible didn't have any sex or violence in it, we might say, hey, that's fair. Look, guys, it's Dr. Seuss. I mean, it's Jesus in a hat. It's it's totally benign. JR, is there any sex or violence in the Bible?
Just a little bit. I'm gonna give you this quick take on it, at least there. But I want to remind you what Kayleigh McEnany said in that last clip. She said, talking about one of the books that's worth being banned. An apparently teenage youth is about to engage in a sexual act with an older bearded man. Here's a moment from the Bible, Genesis chapter 19, 30 through 38, really fast. Then Lot left Zoar and lived in the mountains along with his 2 daughters who were with him, for he was afraid to dwell in Zoar. He and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. And the firstborn said to the younger, our father is old and there's no man on earth to have relations with us after the manner of all the earth. Let us make our father drink wine and let us lie with him, so that we may preserve the lineage of our father. Let's have sex with our dad. So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and had relations with her father. He did not know when she lay down or when she arose somehow. On the next day, the firstborn said to the younger, indeed, last night I had relations with my father. Let us make him drink wine tonight also, so that you may go in and have relations with him, so that we may preserve the lineage of our father. So they made their father drink wine that night also. Then the younger arose and lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. Lastly, therefore both the daughters of Lot were pregnant by their father. The firstborn bore a son, and they called him Moab. He's the father of the Moabites to this day. The younger also gave birth to a son and called his name Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites to this day. Isn't that a great story?
Well, I mean, Bible passages advocating for incest, or as the right apparently refers to it, family values.
Yeah, so if they had put that in a modern book that said, hey, by the way, you shouldn't hate black people or gay people or something, and then they put in a story about how 2 underage girls slept with their dad, the dad didn't notice, and they both became pregnant, and then that was a great thing that should be celebrated, the right wing would lose their minds. They would, what is this? This is the worst story I've ever heard. And by the way, they're not wrong. That is a horrible, horrible story. And it's right there in the Bible. You're gonna let 2 graders read that? Kayleigh McEnany, are you gonna let 2nd graders read that?
And they don't even process the hypocrisy. They see it as different things as they're talking. They're like, can you imagine this this book banning. Our next story, we encourage banning of books that talk about transgender and gay themes. They don't even link one to the other. I believe they even in that segment went on to say that they mostly believe in just banning books or considering banning them that are on transgender and LGBTQ themes. They literally are saying the part out loud now when faced with the fact that, oh, when you're opening a can of worms of banning books, you are now making it so that maybe we're gonna ban books on anything that might be offensive at all possibly. Your holy Bible's gone, oh my gosh, now maybe we made a mistake. How about stop being so reactionary and live and let live?
They want to open the can of worms, but just take one out.
Yeah. And by the way, they removed Anne Frank's diary in some of the schools. Unreal.
We good?
Yeah.
I think we can do it. Let's go. Next video. It looks like a good party there. 36-year-old Finnish Prime Minister Sanna Marin, who's been called the coolest prime minister in the world by a German publication, was seen there partying, dancing with their friends inside of a residence. Crazy how that whole thing works. Now some of her colleagues are asking for a drug test. And they're criticizing her for doing those things. Really fast, this drug test. So this chatting on the videos left her facing questions about the possible presence of illegal drugs, with one person saying, "This gives you a great feeling." But there was no direct evidence that drugs were being used. Still, it was enough for her opposition leader, Riikka Purra, chair of the Finns party, perhaps mindful of elections next April, to suggest that she should volunteer to take a drug test. She did respond though. Let's jump down to the fourth graphic really fast before we open this up. She says, "These videos are private. They're recorded in private premises. I'm displeased that they have been published. What they're about is that I was spending an evening with friends, partying admittedly boisterously, dancing and singing." How could you?
Yeah, here's what I have to say to that. Let her go! Let her go! This is an issue? Are you guys nuts? Do you have any idea what kind of problems we have in America? Your problem is that your prime minister is too cool? Okay, yeah, you should get a load of our guys. First of all, none of them are under 80, okay? I mean, the last time they partied like that was in like 1840s. So you've got this amazing, cool Finnish prime minister who's delivering for you. Who cares that she's having a party? Let her be as boisterous as she wants.
This is what we actually need in our leaders, is human beings. Right. We need people who are actually going to represent anything close to what the common man is. And the common man in life has to work hard all the time and can't wait till you get to relax on the weekend. Everybody's working for the weekend. That's a song, do you understand? We have to fight for our right to party. I mean, this is a well-established need. The person criticizing, her opponent criticizing, literally says she's having fun at a party. Let's test her for drugs. Clearly someone who is a real buzzkill. That person can't even fathom that you could relax with your friends or bop around to some music unless you're high on some kind of hallucinogenic substance taking you out of your very serious lane. We need leaders who are human beings who can relate to people, and will stop having laws that do not connect to the average human experience. That'll solve so many things. She's my favorite prime minister, big fan. Let her finish. The Finnish Prime Minister.
Oh, I was gonna do the finish.
Sorry,
I was gonna finish on that. Okay, one last thing. I would drug test her opponent.
Yes.
Because she apparently thinks it's impossible to have a good time unless you're sky high. So
yeah, she's probably on such a tranquilizer. She's like, oh, why am I seeing movements?
All right, guys, for the members, we got a whole nother episode. Kanye West puts expensive clothes in trash bags and calls it genius.
I'm defending him.
TYT.com/join. We'll see you over there.
You know, old school's pitched to me from Jake. It'll just be me, you, Jesus, Ben, and maybe Michael. And we're like, okay, cool. I can do that every week. As you can see, me, Jesus, Ben.
When you make the order, it says, don't exceed $20.01. So I'll just order literally anything. to get it as close to that as I possibly can.
I'm sorry that I ordered $45 worth of food and got an email saying, "Sir, would you like to rethink that?" What are you talking about?
I was in hell. I was just like, oh my God, the theater's empty, nobody's here. Everyone on screen keeps fucking cursing. Why did I let this happen? And the whole thing looks like it was shot through a glass of milk. My mom's gonna be so mad.
If you're looking for a heart attack, the short way, baby.
Wrong. I did put mayonnaise on it. I'm the most in shape, overweight person you'll find.
That's right.
He was like, why didn't you answer my call? I called you 39 times.
Yuck. But what makes you stop right before 40? You know, what makes you say, nah, man, I ain't doing that no more. I'm cool.
And I called you back on the air. And I was like, okay, Kevin Smith, big shot.